All right. Hello. I just wanted to record a video for everybody real quick, going over a couple things that I have learned since our last kind of main discussion on Toon Boom. Like I've mentioned before, I'm obviously still a student myself, even though I'm a grad student. So I'm still learning things, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm giving you guys as good of information as I can. So I wanted to just go over here a couple things about mostly this has to do with rigs, but I'm also going to show you some stuff about backgrounds and stuff as well. Um, just because there's the ways that I told you how to do it are not necessarily wrong, but there are some alternative or better ways that you can do it as well. So, biggest thing I'm going to show you, I just have a regular brand new empty scene here. I called it Toon Boom Tidbits. That's what I'm calling this little series that I'm doing, or this little video. So it's just a brand new empty scene. I haven't done anything to it aside from just opening it. And the only other thing that I did is I opened, originally when you open it, it starts at tool properties here, but I opened up the library tab because this is what we're going to use here. This is another way that you can open up rigs. And I think, knowing what I know now, this is probably the method that I would recommend. It's a little bit more similar to referencing a rig in like Maya, where you're not opening the original file, you are basically copying it over. So that way you can modify it as much as you need, but that original stays unaltered. So to do that, first of all, we need to make ourselves a library. It's a little bit like, it's not quite like setting the project, but it's a similar concept to the same file directory that you would use in Maya, where you have a folder that is for your assets or for your source images, like for the textures and stuff like that. It's similar, where you're basically telling it, hey, this is where I'm storing this information, and I need you to pull it from here. So I have made a folder here that I'm going to show you guys. This is the folder that I made just to show you guys some different things. So these backgrounds, we're going to go over these here in a little bit. Um, but this is our kind of working file. So I have labeled this one working file. If you go in here, this is going to be the, oh, I just realized I haven't saved it yet. So we're just going to save it, even though I haven't done anything. I've also got my keys down here. So if you want to see what keys I'm pressing, they're going to show up in the corner there. But we, yeah, so this is going to be our working file. This is this Toon Boom Tidbits file. But if we go out here, I've also got a folder called rigs, which, okay, I was playing around in it beforehand to make sure it worked, but there's nothing in here that we can use. And then same thing for this background. This is completely empty because I didn't test anything in here. But for the sake of this, none of that info where it said like deleted, that's not necessary information, because I had put something in there and deleted it, so I can show you guys how to add it. So for all intents and purposes, these are both empty, and then this is going to have our working information here. So we're going to put that away for now. Over here, we want to, so in that folder that I had, because I had a rigs folder, we want to pull up that folder here so that we can put our rig into it. For this specific example, I've just pulled up the olive rig. I know I've been showing you guys that one a lot. The same applies to any rig that you're going to use. That one just happens to be a good rig. It's at the top of the lists when I look at different, you know, rigs to download. So all of it should work. But we're going to go over here. We're going to say open library. And then again, because I was testing it, it already has this rig folder pulled up. But I have this on my desktop. So we're going to go to desktop. We're going to go to Toon Boom Tidbits. And then we're going to go to, we're going to go to Toon Boom Tidbits. And then we're going to go inside again to Toon Boom Tidbits. And then we're going to go to this rigs folder. We're going to select that and then select folder. So as you can see here, it showed up, which is really cool. But usually when you open it for the first time, again, I had done it before, it's going to have, I don't know if you can see here, this Harmony Premium library, which these three are going to kind of be the default that show up regardless. It has a little padlock on it. So usually what you're going to have to do is right click, and here where it says write to modify, if it is one that you are using, we're not going to use this premium library right now, but on here, it has right to modify checked off, which is what we want, because that means that we can add things and we can grab stuff from them. Um, so after you get that kind of set up in your working file, you can open up the actual rig, which I have here. So this is just our olive rig. I have not edited anything on it. She is just, as she is. And over here in our node view, this is just the default how the node view opens. If you go in here, this is the group that has like all of her information. It's a lot of stuff. You don't actually need to do anything with that. We can stay on this simple level here. We're going to select these. We're going to Control C just to copy. And then we're just going to go into this, click into this empty space here. Oh, excuse me. When you open this file, it does not have that rigs library. So we're going to go and do the same thing there. We're going to open library. We're going to go here. We're going to select rigs and we're going to select folder. So then again, that opens that rigs folder. We're going to make sure that that's highlighted. We're going to go into this empty space and then we are just going to Control V. Sometimes it takes a minute to think, but then it will have this thing pop up where it says enter new name. And for this one, it's like ch_olive TPL. TPL is for template. That's what we're making here. We are making what's called a template. The ch_olive, that's fine. So I'm just going to say okay. And then that is up here. You can see it now. So if we hide this, we come back to our original file. Also, if you ever want to open two Harmony files at once, if you come down here to where your icon is and you just middle click that, like middle mouse click, it won't close your original one, but it will open up a new window. So if we come in here, you might see, oh, well, we have our rigs library, but nothing's here. Well, we have this handy dandy little refresh button. So if we click that, oh my gosh, she exists. She's real. So all we have to do now is we have to just drag that down into our node view. Again, it takes a second to think. But then those two nodes pop up. And if you'll see, they're exactly the same as they looked in the olive file. This is just kind of that default blank drawing that it gives you. So we can drag a little line down from this. We can put it below the drawing. This drawing has no information on it, so it doesn't make a big difference. And then you can see she popped up. And she's got all of her, I have my light table on, so if I turn that off, she won't have that weird transparency effect. But as you can see, she's got all of her little poses in there. Everything is as it was in the rig, but it's in a separate file. This is not in that original olive rig file, which is nice because, again, you can edit this however you need to, but it's not altering that original. Since you are downloading a rig that you did not make, I don't think it's the end of the world if you want to still use that original rig file. You can always re-download it, but for the sake of just not having to re-download it a lot, this is a really easy way to just have that information copied over. And it keeps, like, if my understanding is correct, it keeps your file size a little bit smaller. It keeps things a little bit more concise. So that is kind of the first little thing that we're going to cover here about how to import rigs. And then, like I said, everything about this rig is completely the same as it was in the original rig file. So you can edit her the same way that we've been doing. So, all right. So I'm also going to show you guys how to, I know I have mentioned how to import like an image, but I'm going to show you guys how to actually import like a background and how to save it in this library if you wanted to use it for like more than one file. Especially if you're working on a larger project, this can be useful. I'm also going to include, I did find a video that's actually good about how to import directly from a Photoshop file. Like I said, I've never personally done that. I've never found a need to, but from my understanding, it lets you export directly from the layers. So I'm going to include it in the description here of this video, so that way you guys can look through that if you are interested in it. But overall, this is still that same file that we just put the olive rig in. I just hid her so she's not visible. So we are going to go to File, Import Images. We're going to go to Browse, and we're going to back to our Toon Boom Tidbits file. And then these are the, I've got 5 files here. So we're going to shift select all of those guys, hit open, and then because we are not opening a single layer or a single file, we don't want to create a single layer. We want to create layers based on file names. We want to make multiple of them. We are going to keep as original bitmap, And then for the alpha, we are going to have it as straight. Because these are PNGs and they have transparency, this is pretty important because if you do pre-multiplied with white, pre-multiplied with black, clamp color to alpha, those guys, it will make the alpha look strange. So it will make the area where we have that transparency, it will not, either it will fill it in with black, it'll fill it in with white, or it will just make it look off. So we want to make sure that we have that straight. And then we're going to say, okay. So as you can see, these guys are, and I believe I set it to fit, so that's why they're sized in here kind of strange. Um, but we've got our, and these actually imported kind of in the wrong, not the wrong order, not the order that I wanted them to. But as you can see over here in our node view, they are kind of all over the place. They all popped in on top of each other, which tends to be, how things happen when you just import them into the node view. So we've got all of our different things. I'm going to go ahead and delete this empty drawing layer. It's just, we don't need it for this exercise. And then I'm going to take our olive rig here, and I'm just going to disconnect her because we don't need her right now. So just to kind of clean things up. So we've got all these layers. First thing, I want to make sure that they are in the correct order here. And actually, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to create a composite for these guys, so that way we can import them into something else, and they're already kind of in the correct order organization that we want them in. You can then edit them from there. But so we are going to press enter, and then we are going to type in composite, and then this composite will pop up. This is basically the same as this composite right here. It's the same type of thing, but it's just a separate one. So what we can do is we can just take this little wire cutter, snip all these guys. As you can see, they disappear because they're no longer connected all the way down here to our display. So we're just going to take all of these and we're going to pull them here. And I'm going to try to actually put these in the correct order. So I want the background, the one that says BG in the back. This is from a previous project that I did, like a little summer project. So it's called Run because the scene that I was doing in a character was running. So that's why it's called that. So we've got our foreground, and then I'm going to have our midground in between that. And then the overlap was because I did not think ahead when I was making the background, and I didn't organize it in a way that was super easy to have the character. She's like running out of a tunnel. So this overlap layer, we can actually, I'm just going to delete it. We're not going to worry about that. Just because for our project specifically, we don't need that. And then the character has a tree that kind of cuts in front of the character so that the camera can transition to another shot. It was a little clever thing. So that one is all the way on the front. So we can reorganize these here. So now they're in the correct order. And then we can drag this composite down and we can rename this. If you click this little yellow square, it pulls up the settings or the properties. And so we can name this like BG_comp and hit close. And so we can connect that down here and you can see everything is showing up. Obviously these guys are all sized kind of funky. So we can come over here and you might be able to tell, it's a little hard to see here, but some of these are different lengths. That's because when I made this, it was for a parallax type animation. So we wanted the different elements of the background to move at different speeds. An easy way to do that is just have them be different lengths, and so they move at different speeds. So I'm going to just resize all of these real quick just so that they fit vertically, because the horizontal is going to be larger than we need it to be, specifically because we wanted to have that extra room. So for all these, I'm just going to size them up until they fit just outside of the bounds of the... And it looks like they're a little bit low res in this preview, but when you go here, you can see they are the correct resolution, which that's, again, if you are making backgrounds in Photoshop or something, which for these projects that we're doing, I'm not going to recommend, or I'm not going to require any sort of complex background, because obviously, like I said, this was a project that I did, so I wanted it to have a fun background. But for these projects, it's an animation class, so we're not grading you on the composition, we're not grading you on the illustration. So if you want to add that and you feel like you have time, great, I'd say go for it. But if that's an extra stressor for you, like I would say do whatever you need to do. So if your character's interacting with something, at least block out that object, at least sketch it out, but you do not have to do a full illustrated background like we've got here. But if you do, if you want to, and you feel like you can, like you have time, make sure that you're doing, in my opinion, at least double the resolution of your actual animation canvas. So if you're doing 1920 by 1080, I would do double that for your resolution for your illustration. And then if it's something like this, where you want it to be longer, start with that double size and then stretch out the canvas from there. Just so that you have room to resize things and move the camera, and it's not going to get super low resolution. So if we go back to our non-render view, you can see it looks like it goes back to resolution. That's just so that way the preview is not so heavy. It doesn't have to use up as much memory. But for our sake, one last thing. I'll just scooch all of these to kind of what, for this specific project, the starting pose was. So for this, all of these, I wanted them to line up with the kind of front edge here of this thing, so of this canvas. So we're going to line these guys up just like that, so that everybody is where they are. And then the tree, I'm going to just move fully off screen because that came in at the end. So it's going to be over here. So we're just going to have it all like this. But when we take all of these guys over here, we can select all of these. And just like we did with that olive rig, we can Control C, and then we can click over here. And you can see there's nothing in this library because I am not in the rigs folder anymore. I am in, or the library. I made a new one, or I opened a new one, same way we did with that rigs, where you right click here, open library, and then I opened one for the background. And again, if you want to add anything, you have to make sure that you click this right to modify thing, because otherwise it will lock it, so you can't accidentally add anything. But now that we have done that, and we just Control C, we copied that, we are going to go in here, and we're going to Control V. And similar like before, this one took less time to think because it was not a very heavy rig. It was a background that only had a couple files in it. So we are going to run_BG is fine. I happened to set these up with pretty nice naming conventions, but if you didn't do that beforehand and you need to edit it, just edit the name here. And then we're going to hit OK. Now, if you needed to open that in a different file, and you loaded this library up, all you have to do is pull this in here, click it, and it's all set up, just like our olive rig was. So we're going to delete that, though, because we don't need it. If you want to animate this, the easiest way to do that, especially if you want to do something with those parallax effects, is to then do what we had kind of shown before and go to this perspective view. I have it docked up here because I tend to use it, and I like to have it over here. So that's, and you do Control Shift, and then you can move the camera around kind of in 360 degrees. If you want to look at it at the same time as your camera view, you can also grab this and pull it over here to where it's side by side. Then it pulled this over to the function editor, which I will either make a video or find a video for you guys in the future, because this is essentially the graph editor in Toon Boom. It works differently than in Maya, but this is important, so I will go over this at some point. But we can go over to our camera view and have it kind of side by side. And so if you want to do sort of a parallax effect, then we can move around here. And like I said before, it's a little fickle with the angle. So like if you're directly side, it doesn't always show those arrows. Not entirely sure why, but if you kind of get it, like now it does. So if we wanted to, say, grab our tree and pull that super forward, and grab our foreground and pull that a little more forward. You can see over here in the camera view, it's sizing it up because it's closer to the camera. You might not always want that. So like in this case, I had drawn this with the intent that this would kind of be the frame. So in that case, after you scooch it forward, you'll actually want to size it down. But then our midground can stay where it is, and then the background, we can scooch a little bit back. Same thing here. You can see it's kind of showing through the background. We don't want that. So you'd want to kind of size it up here so that it fits again. And I'll go back into that foreground and I'll resize it down just a little bit. And then I will move it back over. And in this circumstance, the way that I did it was I didn't actually move the camera. I just moved, I had the individual layers animate. So if we go down here to the end of this timeline, I had like this guy moved over. Hang on, I only want it to move in this direction. There we go. So like this guy moved over, and this is going to go really fast because this is a very short timeline. And then I had this guy move over, and then the background was not as long, but I had it move a little bit as well. Um, and then same thing with this tree here. I had it move over. And so you don't really quite need to do the parallax like I had it here with the where you moved it in the back if you're doing it like this where you're kind of cheating. If you actually move the camera though, this is what will sell that. Again, I was not moving the camera. If you wanted to do that, you need to come over here and do this plus and do camera. And then to actually move the camera, you have to do Control P. Oh, it's because I'm in the perspective. So Control P. Why are you yelling at me? Okay, well. Hang on, let's see here. Okay, not entirely sure why it's doing that, but that's a new issue for me, so most of the time it should cooperate. But if we come back over here to our camera view, if we grab our perspective view and stick it back over here, and we come back over to our camera view, and again, this is going to be stupid fast, but if we play it through, oh, it's okay, it's not that fast. I was overestimating how many frames I had. But you can see, well, it plays over kind of with a little parallax effect. Again, this is super simple. I would tweak this a lot more if I was doing it in a final project, but this, gets the overall thing that we're going for here. Okay, had some technical difficulties there, just on my end, but I got one more rig for you guys, or one more piece of information here. So some of the rigs that you guys will be able to download have something called master controls. This one, part of the issue I was having is when I opened it, I knew this rig had master controls, but they weren't showing up. If that happens, part of the reason may be, at least for this one, and this might be the case with other ones, so the default when you open the file, it's just going to be on the regular display node up here, which you can see has all of these controls, but it does not have that slider master control. So if you go over here, I believe, yeah, so display all does not work. You have to go to the where it says MC's display, which is master controls. So if the rig has something similar to that, that might be the situation. So if you see here, using this, you can turn the body or turn the head, you can turn the body, or you can turn the whole character. You can also use this to switch between some of the hand poses. And this one up here, oh, no. There you go. Switches between a bunch of the mouth poses. Sometimes I find with the hand and the mouth poses, it's still easier to go to the drawing substitutions for those, which, if I can click the mouth, it's small. So if you go over here and you go to Windows Drawing Substitutions, because then you can see it, you can see the thumbnails of them. So sometimes I find that that's easier, especially when it's smaller, things like that. But it depends on the person. Some people find it easier to just use those sliders. But that's a faster and a bit of an easier way to do the turnaround. Or like if a character is turning, I mean, because you can just do this and then obviously adjust the pose. But I actually have a video here. I will put this link in the description of this video where you can make your own. So some rigs don't include the master controls. Like I believe that Olive rig, she might not have those. At least there was not some on the default display. I probably actually, let me go back here and check. We're going to just discard that because we don't need that. So we're going to go over here and we're going to open this and see if maybe there's a similar situation that I didn't notice before where she had the one display node. or the one display option. Okay, so up here we got display all and then olive. Okay, yeah. So it doesn't look like she has some. So this might be a good reason to use this. So we can go to this, and this artist shows you how to make those yourself because it's not that hard to make them for pre-existing rigs, especially if you have kind of used the library to get them in, so you wouldn't be editing that original rig. But yeah, so I'm going to include this. It's a much easier way and a little bit less glitchy of a way to, or not glitchy, clunky. Clunky. It's a little bit less clunky of a way than copying and pasting these poses. Although that method still works, that is still fine. But yeah,